We're going to start by understanding the meaning of programming. When we talk about programming, we're talking about interacting with the computer or giving instructions to the computer. Just like the normal interactions we have with our fellow human beings or fellow individuals, we normally speak to people using a language that they understand. For instance, if you see somebody that speaks English language, it is normal that you interact with the person using English language. If you see somebody that speaks Spanish, you interact with the person using Spanish, because it wouldn't make sense that you are speaking to somebody in English language and the person doesn't even have a clue of what you are saying. The same is applicable to computers. If you want to interact with the computers, you have to communicate to them in the language that they understand. And those languages are called programming languages. So basically, when we talk about programming, we're talking about interacting with the computer, giving instructions to the computer. For instance, you can write some instructions and ask the computer to download files for you from the internet, or to search for certain things for you from the search engine. You can even ask the computer to perform some of those routine tasks you normally do all the time, like sending emails, analyzing documents, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about programming, we're talking about writing or communicating to the computer using a programming language. And you may be wondering, what can you do with programming in the real sense of it? You can use programming for web development. You can use it for automation. When we're talking about automation, we're talking about using the computer to do some of those tasks that you normally do manually. For instance, if you are a marketer or a salesperson and part of your job involves sending almost the same email to maybe hundreds or thousands of people every day, instead of having to send those emails one after the other, you can just write a script using a programming language, and it's going to send all those emails without having you to do it one after the other. So that is automation. You can use programming for data analysis. These days we are living in a data-driven world where most of the decisions that businesses make are based on data. And when we perform data analysis, the goal is usually to make informed decision from the data. For instance, from the data, you can be able to maybe determine your highest selling product, or the product that normally generates more income or more profit from you. And with this information, you can be able to know the kind of products that you keep in stock in your shop. We also use programming for gaming. We use programming for artificial intelligence and so on. Now we'll look at the different types of programming languages. Basically, we have two types of programming languages. We have the low-level programming languages and we have the high-level programming languages. For the low-level programming languages, we have the machine code and we have the assembly language. When we talk about the low-level programming languages, these are native languages of the computer. Just like we as human beings, you may be born in a country where you speak a certain language. That language is your native language. And you can also learn other languages. They are not your native language. So the native language of the computer is ones and zeros, which is the machine code. But writing programs using ones and zeros can be difficult. And because of this, the assembly language was introduced. And assembly language normally make use of mnemonics or abbreviations. It's also very tedious to write programs using assembly language. So when we talk about low-level programming languages, we're talking about the machine language or the machine code and the assembly language. Then for the high-level programming languages, these are languages that resemble our natural languages. They are far from the low-level languages or the machine native languages. That is why we call them high level. Is a bit far from the native language of the computer. Low level means at the same level, almost at the same level with the language that machine understands. For high-level languages, we have programming languages like Python, Java, JavaScript, and so on. We have hundreds of high-level programming languages, but we're going to be learning the Python programming language. Now let's look at Python. So what is Python? Python is a high-level programming language. It's an interpreted programming language as well. When we're talking about programming, we just categorize programming into high level and low level. There's also another classification of programming languages based on the way they are being interpreted by the computer. So we have interpreted languages and compiled languages. So Python is an interpreted language. There's an intermediary between what you've written and the machine. So we'll have an interpreter or a translator which interprets that language to the binary equivalent. So that is the meaning of interpretation. So we have a translator or an interpreter that interprets your Python program into the machine equivalent or the format which the machines can understand. Python was created by Guido van Rossum in the early 90s, and Python is known for simplicity and readability, and as a matter of fact, it is this simplicity and ease of understanding the language that has made the language very popular. So Python is beginner friendly. If you've never programmed before and you are looking for a language to learn, Python is your best bet. And as much as Python is simple and easy to understand, Python is also very powerful. So you don't assume because it is easy to learn that it is not powerful. Python is quite a very powerful programming language. Python is also very versatile. You can do a lot of things using Python. For instance, you can use Python for web development, for data science, automation, AI, and so many. In essence, Python is simple, Python is beginner friendly, and Python is versatile. And as well, I can say Python is very, very powerful. So why would you learn Python in the first place? Like I said before, Python is beginner friendly. Another reason is that Python has a very huge community. One of the things that makes a programming language very powerful is when there is large user base. When there is large user base, if you encounter a problem, it's easy for you to see people who are using the same language, and you can inquire from those people or seek for advice from those people. So because a lot of people are using Python, if you go over the internet, you will see so many articles, blog posts, videos about Python. So Python has a very huge community, and you can always leverage on this community, especially when you have challenges. In fact, there is no problem you ever encounter that somebody has not written something about it or done a video about it on the internet. Python is versatile and high in demand. It's one thing to learn a programming language, and that thing for people to seek for people with that knowledge. So Python is that language that if you are very proficient in it, there is huge demand for talent or people that have the knowledge of Python. And Python is also popular in education, startup, and large enterprises. Many people are doing videos today on Python. A lot of times, many startups want to build a web service or build a software solution, and one of the languages that can make this possible very fast is Python. Likewise, large enterprises. As a matter of fact, there are so many popular applications that are built with Python. For instance, we have Instagram, we have Dropbox, and so many of them. So Python is actually a very powerful and a nice programming language to learn. So now we're going to learn how to install Python, and to do this we're going to go to python.org. So I'm going to launch my browser and visit python.org. So now I'm going to visit the Python official website, which is python.org. So this is the official website of Python, and I'm going to hover over the downloads button. Here you can see download for Windows, and the reason why I'm seeing download for Windows is because I'm on a Windows device. So if you are on a Mac device, maybe you'll be seeing download for Mac. If you are on Linux, you'll be seeing download for Linux. So I'm going to click on Python 3.13.5. So this is the latest stable version of Python. So I'm going to click on it, and the download will start automatically. So from the progress bar, you can see it is downloading. So wait for it to download. So now that we are done with the download, so let's go ahead and proceed with installation. So I'm going to click here, or I might as well go to the downloads and click on the installer to initiate the installation process. So but this is faster, so let me click here. So this is going to start the installation process. Here is just a little notification. Smart screen can be reached right now, so probably because of the internet connection. So I'm gonna click on run, and this is a dialog box. Install Python 3.13.5 64-bit. And since I'm using Windows, if you want the Python to work after this installation, you have to check this option, add python.exe to paths. So I'm going to click here to check it, and I'll click on install now. I'll click yes and wait for the installation to complete. So now we're done with the setup, and from the dialog box here you can see setup was successful. So let's go ahead and confirm whether it was actually successful. So I'm going to close the dialog box, and I'm going to be opening the terminal or the command prompt. So I'm going to go to the start menu here, and I can simply type command and click on command prompt. To confirm if Python is actually properly installed in this device, I'll simply type Python and hit enter, and you can see this is the version of Python that we installed. Once you see this information, it means that Python was successfully installed in your device, and this is a chevron symbol, and what this means is that you are in the interactive session. You can type Python code here and get immediate feedback. For instance, I can type 4 plus 5, and it is going to give me the sum, which is 9. I can type 3. If you want to perform multiplication, you have to use a stereo symbol multiplied by 2. This is going to give us 6. And if I want to print a message or display a message on the terminal, I can use print. I can say print hello and then close this and hit enter. You can see hello on the terminal. So this confirms that we actually installed Python in the device, so we're ready to go. So the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to be downloading an IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Some people teach programming using the interactive session or the terminal, but I prefer using IDE because eventually you are going to be using IDE as a developer. For me, there is no point learning programming using interactive session and later you start learning how to use integrated development environments. So I think it is important that you start using IDE as soon as possible, as early as possible. So if I want to close the interactive session, I'll simply hold the control button and then press Z and hit enter. So this is going to close the interactive session. If I want to get back to the interactive session again, I can simply type Python. Here's the interactive session. If I want to exit interactive session, I'll press Ctrl Z and It's going to exit the interactive session. Then I'm going to close this. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to install an IDE. But first of all, what is an IDE? An IDE is basically a software that helps you write and manage your codes efficiently. With IDE, you can be able to write your program, you can run your program, you can debug your program, and perform different type of tasks. And most IDEs normally have auto corrections and IntelliSense that indicate where you are making mistakes in your program. And we have different or several IDEs available. We have VS Code, we have PyCharm, we have Tony, Jupyter, and so on. But we're going to be using the Visual Studio Code, and that is the software we're going to be downloading now. So let's go ahead and download and install Visual Studio Code. And to do this, we're going to go to the Visual Studio Code website, or better still, we can simply type Visual Studio Code, hit enter. Then I'm going to click on the download, and from here I'm going to download the Visual Studio Code that matches with my operating system. Since I'm using Windows, I'm going to be downloading Visual Studio Code for Windows. This is for Windows 10 and 11. If you are using Linux distributions, you can download any of these, and then this one is for Mac operating system. So I'm going to click here to initiate the download. So I think it is downloading. So we're already seeing thank you for downloading Visual Studio Code. So we're going to wait for the download to complete. Then we'll go ahead and install the Visual Studio Code. So now we've successfully downloaded the Visual Studio Code. So let's go ahead and install it. So I'm going to click here to initiate the installation process, and I'm going to click on run, and I'm going to accept the agreement and click next. If I want to have an icon of it on the desktop, I can check this, but I don't want it, so I'm going to leave it the way it is. Then click on next, then click on install. So we'll wait for the installation to complete. Now we're done with the installation of Visual Studio Code. Let's go ahead and launch it. And as you can see, launch Visual Studio Code is already selected. So if I click on finish, it's going to launch the application. So let me click on finish. So it is launching Visual Studio Code. Wow. So now we have launched Visual Studio Code. But before we go ahead and start writing programs, there is one thing you need to install, and which is Python extension. So by the left side of the screen, you can see this icon. This is extension. These are applications that can aid you write your programs or run certain programs using Visual Studio Code. So we're going to be needing Python extension to be able to run Python programs using Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to click here. So I'm going to type Python here to search for the Python extension. And the extension I'm looking for is a Python extension from Microsoft. So let's wait for a couple of seconds to see whether it's going to show up in the search result. So we're going to be installing this Python extension authored by Microsoft. So I'm going to click on install here. And as you can see, it is installing. So wait for the installation to complete. And as we continue, we're going to be installing some other extensions. But for now, what we need is the Python extension. Now we have successfully installed the Python extension. So I'm going to close this tab, and the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to write a program. And for us to write this program, we're going to start by creating a Python script or a Python file. So I can go to the file menu here and click on new test file, and I'm going to save this with an extension .py to make it a Python script. So I'll either type Ctrl S, or I can go ahead to click on Save As from the file menu. So I'm going to click on Save As and then select where I want to save the file. So let's give it a name. I can call it first.py and hit enter, and this becomes a Python script. So let me hide this extension. So I'm going to click it and it's going to hide the extensions. And if you look at the title of this script, you can see a Python icon beside it. And the reason is because this is a Python script and we saved it with .py. So now we can go ahead and start writing our Python program. We can start putting our Python statements, expressions inside of this. Let's go ahead and write print, and I'll put hello. We're going to learn about the Python syntax, but I'm only trying to show you that it is working. And we can go ahead and click on this icon, this run icon here, to run the program. So I'll click on it and you can see hello in my output. So if I type another statement, let's say print how are you, it is going to run the two statements, hello and how are you. So now we have hello and how are you. I can as well write print, I'll have 5 plus 7 and run it. You can see the output, which is the sum of 5 and 7, which is 12. So here is the text editor. This is where you type in your Python statement or Python expression or Python code. And here is where you see the output of your program. And if you look, you can see we have other tabs here. We have problems, output, terminal, and so on. So you can as well run your program from the terminal. You can click on terminal. If I click on terminal, all I need to do is just indicate the name of the script. I can simply write Python, then write the name of the script, which is first.py, and hit enter. This is going to run the program as well. So let me go ahead and maybe write print hello. But this time around I have to save it. So Ctrl S to save it, and I'm going to type Python first.py and hit enter. It is going to give me hello. If I want to go back to the previous command in the terminal, I can use my arrow key. I can use the up arrow and then hit enter. It is going to run the program again. And if the terminal start getting messy with a lot of commands there, you can simply wipe them away by using clear and hit enter. It is going to wipe away those commands in your terminal. So with this, we've successfully installed Visual Studio Code, installed the Python extension, and ran a program using the Visual Studio Code. Up next, we're going to learn about the Python syntax, and from there we'll start learning how to program in Python.